What's going on, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Insights from the Locker Room. I'm your host, Derek Bone Crusher Dennis, here along with my co-host,
Tyler Moose Johnstone. Thank you so much for listening. Special thank you for Caffeine and Kilos again for supporting our podcast. Caffeine and Kilos is an athletic lifestyle brand. What they believe in is getting caffeinated and going ahead and just ripping that workout. Speaking of them,
shredding the kilos.
Because of their support, we're able to do a giveaway, and listen to the end of the episode for the giveaway. You'll have your chance to get your own pack of their PR blend coffee, and it's delicious. Let me tell you what, you need like 1 cup. You work out for like 2 hours.
1 cup in your day is made.
So Derek, who do we got on? So listen to the end for that competition and how you can win. And Derek, who are we bringing in?
Well, today we have a very special guest, resident detail guy for TSN, Derek Taylor. A lot of you know him at his at DT on SC. He's a very well-known reporter for breaking down CFL football for the very minute details. We're talking about breakdown on how quarterbacks throw the football, to what yardage, to what side of the field, to what player gets targeted, to what offensive lineman is getting beat and not getting beat, and what D lineman is benefiting from having great guys around him to get success. Derek has all the knowledge, and here he is. So joining us right now is Derek Taylor from TSN, the details himself. Derek, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Not bad. I'm happy to talk to actual football players. So much time is spent in my office here crushing numbers on a computer. I'm glad to talk. I always love talking to people who know more about football than I do because I end up learning a bunch.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it. And that's exactly why we have you on, because you're in your office crunching your numbers. And if you guys don't follow this man on Twitter, at least
you have to.
Shout out your Twitter handle, Derek, real quick.
At DT on SC.
Yes. At DT on SC. So you got to follow him.
If you're a football fan, you love numbers, this is the man to follow.
My God, if you go through it, you can get lost for days in this man's timeline. He's got stats on stats. He's got rankings. He's a genius. But yeah, Derek knows Bone Crusher here.
Yeah. So this is probably my favorite reporter in Canada, hands down.
Because he goes by the facts.
No, but the thing I like, Derek, the thing I like about you the most is that you're very approachable when it comes to players. Like, if a player comes to you with something, you don't always get like, oh, well, like I got into it on Twitter a couple of days ago with like Marshall Ferguson, and I'm sorry, I can't pronounce his name. Who's the beat writer in BC that worked for you guys?
TSN.
Farhan Lodge.
Oh, Farhan Lalji.
Farhan Lalji. Yes, I'm sorry, I butchered his name. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I even got into it on him with Twitter as well like a week ago. And the thing I always like, it kind of grinds my gears the most, is when a reporter tries to tell me they've watched enough football to like tell me something different than what I'm trying to tell them as a guy who's been living it for 15 years, going through it.
Exactly.
Like I understand you love football, you watch the game, you feel like you pay attention to everything. Yeah. But it's like apples to oranges when you come to actually experiencing it, to actually be like watching it. Like, it's two different things.
Yeah.
No doubt. The thing I love, like I said, I loved about Derek is that if he sees something, the thing I like is he'll come to me first and go, hey, what happened on this play? So that, that way when he goes on TV or when he does his details or when he does his videos, he's talked to the player before, so it's like he gets a different perspective than him just watching it and going, well, I know what I'm looking at. Let me just state my piece.
Big. That's so big.
That's what I love about Derek the most.
Derek, you are starting a trend that we appreciate. Thank you so much again for just being you and being the type of journalist you are.
We need more reporters like you, man. For real.
Well, it's all about, and it happens in every walk of life, right? People know what they know, and they don't. I mean, they know what they don't know, but they're not willing to admit it in a lot of cases. And when I watch 24 guys going full speed trying to murder each other, especially offensive line play is super confusing. Like, Derek, you and I had a conversation once. You were like, well, I saw him shaded down a little inside, so that's usually an indication of a twist game. So I was ready for that, and the guy whipped right past me. And I'm like, I never would have known that, except for now I know now. A lot of times, sometimes
I know exactly what play you're talking about, too. And you're talking about against Toronto and Sass, when Lemon got that sack, and he doesn't let me live it down like he beat me. And you clearly see me put all my attention into Dylan Wynn, thinking it's a twist game. and then Kevin Glenn is like 9 yards back, and he just gets to him, and I'm like, you know what? There's nothing I can do about it.
Can we take a moment and pour one out for Dylan Wynn leaving for the AAF? I thought that guy was tremendous.
Hey,
I was about
he kind of started.
Out,
I was actually going to ask you about that because it's kind of been a trend the last couple of weeks. It's not only been him; it's been Deontay Evans.
Yes.
It's been it was Terrell Sinkfield.
Yep.
Did it?
Just
and
recently.
then I just recently seen a report about Stephen Charles, who played in the NFL and has been a very good player, but bounced around, and easily being a Canadian D lineman, he can come up to the CFL and make the same type of impact that Cleon Lang has, but he decided to go to AF too.
Because Stephen Charles is Canadian. Like he went to the University of Regina. He got some notice when help me out, Regina by way of LSU, ripping people apart for the Chicago Bears now.
Akeem Hicks.
Akeem Hicks came up and they played.
I actually had to block that dude one-on-one coming out of college in East-West game. That dude is a mountain.
Really.
Yeah. And imagine him playing university ball in Canada. He was
destroying guys. He was a monster.
Yeah, it's I mean, you guys know you make decisions for a number of reasons other than straight money, right? Like some of those guys could probably make more money here. Dylan might know Toronto better, but maybe there's probably a lot of reasons drawing him to the States. And that was one guy that in 2017 I had tremendous numbers for. Like his quarterback pressures from the interior were outstanding, and he's a guy that if I wasn't tracking every play of every game, I might not have noticed how good Dylan Wynn was at football, because defensive interior guys get lost in the shuffle, right? Because those ends are so flashy and dancy and woo, but there's a lot of really good defensive tackles if you want to watch.
Oh yes, for sure.
I had the very inconvenient job of blocking Dylan Wynn in the Civil War at Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
So Oregon versus Oregon State, because he went to Oregon State.
And he's so little. He has such great leverage.
Yeah, he's like 5. I don't know what he is. I would say
he's
5'10".
Short. He's very short for a D tackle.
And he is just one of those guys that is just an absolute meathead in the weight room.
Oh, man.
Meathead.
You could tell.
Really?
You could tell.
Oh, yeah. Even he was practicing for Canadian football, I think, in college, because even in college, he lined up a yard off the ball. And like you knew he wasn't going to give you anything fancy.
No, he's just going to come right down your face.
Exactly. Even if the score, basically what it was, like 45-15 at halftime, it doesn't matter. He's not coming with any less, man. I had like.
Oh, I wanted to ding you.
That's not a suck. That's facts.
No, it is facts. It is facts. I thought about it for a second.
Yeah, it's okay. I appreciate that. But man, he would come every single play and just hit you right in the chin. And to have such a powerful leg drive, like you really had to be on your game to take the bull rush. But you knew it was coming at least.
Oh, yeah.
But like, God, I had a headache for like 2 days after blocking that full. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys, and especially in Calgary, like the guards, they have a lot of respect for Dylan and the type of player he is. And you got
great
guys,
locker room guy too, because he drives everybody in the weight room. You know what I mean? You see him; he's a maniac. That guy.
Yeah.
Maniac.
I've heard great things about him from guys who play with him in Toronto.
Yep.
I had a tremendous amount of respect for him as a player. He's pretty good. Even when I was in SAS, I played some guard against him a couple games, and the dude, he brings it every play, regardless of the score. He's gonna come full tilt.
He's just that high motor white guy.
Just a high motor guy. Yeah.
High motor white guy. That's what it is.
Hey, a lot of them have to be like that.
They have to
be like that.
Unbelievable.
So Derek, just you brought it up. He's one of those guys where in 17 he had a good year, but like you said, guys like that who stats don't really pop out to you, but they're great players. They have tremendous effect. Who's other guys in the league that you think has that type of title to them that you think is guys who don't really pop out to you on the stat sheet, but they're bona fide ballers?
I think this guy also left as well, but Jake Ceresno was a guy I've always enjoyed.
Yeah, he went to the NFL.
Yeah, so I guess so other people can understand Ceresno, but he was ripping up in Ottawa. He and Zach Evans, and Evans got a lot of the attention, right? Because that guy had a monster 17. But Ceresno would keep getting it done. He got it done in Edmonton too. So I mean, when the NFL notices a guy, but we don't talk about him a ton, there's something that we're missing, right? So that's one of those ones where I hope that stats can kind of fill the hole. I don't want to take credit for hey, by the way, Delvin Breaux is a really good player, but because come on, we know Delvin Breaux, right?
Yeah, Delvin's a baller.
But there are guys who left him off the All-Star ballot because
he didn't have any stats.
He doesn't have any stat. Exactly. He won't make a lot of tackles because no one throws the ball at him. Guess how many players in the CFL were targeted more than Delvin Breaux? Delvin Breaux, starting boundary corner for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. How many players had more targets against them than Delvin Breaux?
I'm willing to say, just based off the tone of that question, like every single one. Every single one had more. Everybody had more tosses there.
So so there are 44 other starting defensive backs. In total there were 56 people targeted more than Delvin Breaux. No one threw at the guy. Like
even the starters, even the backups. Were getting thrown out more than Delvin Breaux.
I mean, here's why I come into that. I know for a fact, even talking to because I'm very I believe in building relationships with a lot of reporters across Canada because one, they really are the deciding factor on who is all-stars and who's what in the league in terms of when it comes to voting, because it's really just coaches just put a voter all right, put this name up, and the reporters actually pick who wins everything.
Yeah.
So I've always felt like it's a good thing to have a rapport with reporters in different cities, especially ones who are not in your market and they don't get to watch your games often.
Yeah.
Because most of them are just going to, if they don't watch your games, they're just going to pull out a stat sheet and go, well, I'm just going to look for the guy who got the best stats. All right, cool. He gets my vote type of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of it needs to change a little bit. I feel like reporters should have a little more wherewithal to at least reach out to guys in that market that they know that work in their business and be like, hey, who are the guys that you think are good? I had conversations.
That way, they can go to bat for the guys that are in their region that they're covering.
Yeah, but I understand it because honestly, I think that's the reason why. I mean, I didn't win MOL this year. I'm gonna toot my own bell, yes, because my reasoning behind it was the reason why Stanley got it is because of Andrew Harris. Andrew Harris led the league in rushing. They had the number one rushing attack in the league, and I think a lot of reporters just looked at the fact that Andrew Harris is a Canadian. He led the league in rushing. They team was number one in rushing attempts, and that's the reason why he got it. But again, in my mind, I'm like, well, Bo Levi Mitchell is the most outstanding player. He's thrown for most touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's, you know what I'm saying? Why not give it to that guy? But I think the fact that
people are salty because they thought back then too, they thought he was going to be leaving. It was a
name. It was a name, and it was other names with stats, and that's why they're like, okay, well, he gets it.
Yeah.
Let's just all say Stanley Bryant's a monster. Yes,
he is though.
Yeah.
He is.
Okay.
Nothing. No disrespect to Stanley. I think Stanley is a very good tackle. I think between me, him, and Servi, we're probably the top tackles in the league in terms of play. I watch all tackles in the league, so in my personal opinion, I think we're the top three. The last couple years since I've entered the league, I've only played 3 full seasons. I've been up here for 4 years, so I mean, my knowledge is not that deep of guys who've been before me. But at least from my short time in the CFL, those are 2 guys that when I entered the league, and in 16, I told myself hey, I'm gonna be the best lineman in the league. In my mind, it was like all I got to do is play better than those 2 guys, and I'm gonna get it. So
yes, those are 2 guys you felt you had to beat out.
Yeah. So when it came to all-star voting, rushing is very far down the list of things I would consider because this is a 70% passing league. You got to be able to pass block, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, Andrew Harris, unbelievable player. Guys can run the ball. By my numbers, Winnipeg had the 4th best run blocking offensive line. Cool story. Calgary, 9th best, by the way. Just saying, Calgary.
That's because we don't run the ball, though.
Just saying, Montreal best. Montreal had the number 1 run blocking offensive line.
All right, so how do you break down your offensive line run blocking a stat? When you rate an offensive line for run blocking, how do you go about doing that?
Okay, so mine is just entirely a one statistic, and it's one I co-opted from a group in the States called Football Outsiders. They have a stat. It's called adjusted line yards, right? So if any carry goes for 0 yards or a loss, you count it 20% extra. If it goes for 0 to 4 yards, you count it at 100%. If it goes from 5 to 10, you count it at 50%. If a run goes 11 yards or farther, no credit goes to the offensive line. That's now all on the running back. You guys essentially do your job between -6 yards and 10 yards down the field.
Okay, so go ahead.
I was going to say Calgary, for an example, gets big, long runs from Raheem Morris and from Don Jackson throughout the season, which are incredibly valuable. But after a point, they're running against absolutely nobody. So how good are you at creating yards in that second level ends up coming out in the stat like this?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah,
absolutely. So now I see where you're going with that. I'm gonna put you on some game right now.
Absolutely.
Right, so let me give you an example. So USC Oregon 2013 at USC. Kenyon Barner broke every rushing record against USC. I'm talking about like my first game playing USC his freshman year, and he broke every record. He had 364 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns at USC.
Like Lord Jesus.
Now, 275 of those, and granted, he was rushing like a madman. Like he was playing an insane game.
Yeah.
But 275 of those yards came before contact. Now, with those stats in mind, he wasn't getting touched a lot because he had massive, massive holes at the line of scrimmage. Leonard Williams wasn't playing well. Their D-line was just getting gassed by a rushing attack. But we were opening huge, huge holes that broke for damn near 20 yards of play, a rush when Kenyon got the ball. Now, knowing that he had 275 yards before he even got touched, and because of that, most of those rushes attempts are going to be plus 15 yards, or those yards you were saying that we wouldn't get credit for. So how would you account for something like that?
Well, I mean, after a certain point, there's not an offensive lineman in the camera shot, right? So at some point, you've gotten them to that 10-yard mark. So if you gauge everything on that 10-yard outer barrier, once you've done that, that's the maximum you can do in this stat. And like every stat, it has its limitations.
Right.
But if a guy runs for a loss, you're penalized a little extra because almost all the time there's been a real problem with the block.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you can, but when you see it, if instead of a 5-yard carry, every time you now get a 7-yard carry, well, that's a real difference maker. And sometimes that's the running back. William Powell's a guy who makes tacklers miss left and right. That's great. But it's just trying to take, without going play by play 10,000 times for 5 offensive linemen.
That makes sense.
It's a stat to try and figure out which offensive line blocks the best in the run game. So it eliminates those, on a 100-yard touchdown, 90 yards you're not going to get credit for, right? Because
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yards per carry is an indicator.
I see what you're saying. Okay. So a team that has higher attempts and you're grading it based in a 10-yard radius. So 10 yards is the maximum. So if a team has more attempts and they're getting more attempts for more 10-yard runs, it's going to seem like they're a better run blocking offensive line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Calgary had So
we're at the bottom because most of the time we're having big runs. We're getting the running back past the second level, and it's pretty much once
and
you
guys pass more often than other teams. Yeah.
But,
and we pass more than other
teams.
teams.
Those two things. Yeah.
Because you did a sheet where Don he's like the top rusher in the league of yards per attempt, right?
It was yards to average. Yeah. Don showed up really well. Calgary had the most runs for a loss though.
Oh.
You had 36 carries for a loss, and you lost 85 yards on those carries last season. That was by far the most in the league.
But how many of those runs are RPOs though?
Run play options.
Yeah.
These are all.
Do you count RPOs as a pass, or do you count them as a run?
These are strictly running back carries.
So these are strictly like ball gets handed to the running back.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
That makes sense.
Cool.
RPOs are a real sticky point because, well, Derek, another one you and I talked about. I'm like, did Javon Santos Knox get pressure on you because you kind of take a punch at him? But no, you're like, no, that's an RPO.
It was an RPO.
Ball's got to get out. Yeah,
because in film study, like that's the thing. Like, what that I gauge is that when you see stats from like reporters and stuff, you guys will say like this play was a pressure, or this play was a sack, or so on and such forth. And it's like when you get, how it is when you get in the room with your O-line coach. Your O-line coach is like, based on scheme, based on how we block things, your responsibilities, like, oh, that's not your fault. That's on the quarterback. Oh, that's not your fault. That's on the running back. He ran it the wrong way.
Sometimes coaches will even take like personal accountability.
Because according to my coach last year, I was only responsible for, I think, 1 sack the entire year.
That's what I had.
Yeah. No, it's the truth, though.
That's the truth. I guess it's
the truth, though. I'll refund
you that fine.
I wasn't even trying to.
I thought you were trying to. Dennis,
no, it's the truth, though.
1 sack.
He was only. I only had responsibility for the entire year for 1 sack, and it was most of the times where if the guy I was blocking was getting to the quarterback, it was because of pressure from the other side, and it was like pretty much quarterback drifted right to where I was blocking.
He ran into your guy. Yeah, that makes sense. The pocket closed on the other side.
Yeah,
that's like
so I mean that's the things like that's the things like for us, we know how the game is moving and how moving parts is, and like I said, that's the thing I like about Derek is that sometimes he'll watch something and he'll be like, "Well, that was kind of uncharacteristic of that guy."
He just said you're only responsible for 1 sack.
Yeah.
To be fair, I have Derek responsible for 2 sacks.
Two sacks.
I have one to Charleston Hughes, and I have one to.
You're talking about the one where I didn't move because I thought he was offsides.
That's right. Yeah, that's the one. That's right. That's on you though.
Yeah, it is on me. It is on me. But again,
I see what happened.
If you ever played in SAS, SAS is a really hard when they're packed and they're loud. We got to do silent count because you can't hear anything in that stadium.
Silent count is like
so for me, Charleston is that's the thing I like about Charleston is at least from practicing against him and then playing against him, he's very savvy. He's like the savviest vet D lineman in the league. He knows how to manipulate stuff and angles. So Charleston will always take maybe like he'll be 1.5 yards, 2 yards back and get a rolling start on you. So for me, in my eye vantage point and looking at it, I'm like, oh, he's offsides. I'm like, and then of course I'm thinking if I'm going off of how the snap count is supposed to work,
go on.
I'm like, okay, the ball is not moving yet for another like half a second. So before he gets one more step in the ground, he's going to be offsides. But at that point, it was like he timed it perfectly.
Yeah,
the ball moved a little sooner than it's supposed to. He hit it right at the point, like, and it was like, oh, when I realized there was no flag, I was like, oh shit, I gotta hold him. And then what messes it up is Romar. In our scheme, he went the wrong way. He wasn't supposed to block Charleston. Romar looked at it like, oh, man, free guy coming loose. Let me help out so that he doesn't kill Bo. So Romar goes to hit him. When Romar chips him as I'm holding him, it bounces Charleston back behind me. As Charleston bounces back behind me, Bergman is blocking. Bergman was helping the center. He tries to come late to, like, kind of close the gap so that Charleston couldn't get to him. So when Bergman goes to put hands on him, Charleston gets ricocheted off of Cambry Williams' back because he's blocking, I think it was Eddie Steele, the nose tackle. He's blocking Eddie Steele. His back turns to Charleston. As Berg hits him, he bounces off of UCAM's back, and Bo is still holding the ball, like waiting for the go. Because if you ever play a Chris Jones defense, when he plays Calgary, he always rushes 3 and drops 9. Because if he figures, if I could keep the windows closed for the longest, it'll give 3 guys a chance to at least possibly get there or quarterback scramble, get rid of the ball, or dumb down, and it's minimal yardage.
Yeah,
that's Chris Jones' philosophy. So,
Kyle, did you always let him make excuses like this on the locker room? This is great.
Yeah, man. This is how we talk in the locker room.
That is an excuse. You're right. Thank you for reminding me.
I just explained the play the same way you did. You did when you gave up a sack.
Yeah, but we were recording. I didn't give up a sack though. He's got snapped. He got the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, what's worse? I'd rather just take a minimal sack than my quarterback get his head ripped off.
And throw an interception.
Did he throw an interception?
He threw into double coverage. It wasn't the best throw I ever saw.
Well, hey, I'll find myself for an excuse.
Okay, so yes.
And it was off air.
Yes.
Yeah, boom.
And I digress.
Off topic, fine.
But that's all I was saying. Like, to me, I know how the play was supposed to go. It didn't go exactly according to plan. Yes, he got the sack. Yes, I knew it was going to count against me. Yeah. That's why when I came to the sideline, I was pissed because I'm like, damn, I was having a really good game that game. Like, I played really good that game.
Yeah.
That was probably the one blemish on my entire game.
That's so annoying.
And it's annoying because as a D lineman just has to make one play in the game. And everybody's like, oh, that guy had a killer game. He was destroying them. And it's like, bro, he made one play.
And that's what I wanted to ask Derek. That brings us perfect point. So, like, just what Derek was talking about, Bone Crusher, he was basically just saying, you know, it's like a O lineman has a bad game when he gives up 1 sack, and a D lineman can pretty much do nothing all game and get a sack. If he gets a sack every game, well, that's 18 sacks in the season. That's like a record year probably.
Yes.
And so everybody looks good on stat sheets. So it kind of makes me ask, how do you grade offensive line? Like, I mean, I know you said the run block thing, but like when you look at a specific offensive lineman, what stats matter to you? Like, let's say for tackle, for example.
Well, and that was a real good conversation because when I came to my All-Star ballot, I'm like, man, there are three amazing left tackles in the game. There's a 4th one who I think is really good, and then there's some other guys. So I looked at it and I looked at Joel Figueroa of BC now, and I went, okay, 15 quarterback pressures on the season is too much compared to the other guys who are out there. So I was left with, and this gets to be super interesting. So Derek, I had 9 pressures, 2 sacks, no holding calls in 18 starts. Yeah. I made sure I have to track holding calls because to me that's a sack. That's almost as bad as a sack.
Yes, it is. Most guys take holding calls to prevent a sack.
Yeah, and you should be penalized
For
in your grading for that. Sir Vincent Rogers, 9 quarterback pressures as well. No holding calls, 1 fewer start, and 2 sacks. So virtually identical. And then Stanley Bryant, 9 quarterback pressures, 1 holding call, but 1 sack allowed. So you're like, okay, here's 3 guys with identical numbers, absolutely identical numbers. I thought, how am I going to break this? How am I going to break this tie in the West between Derek and Stanley? And so at that point, I look at running a little bit, but I don't. It's the CFL. I don't really care about running, and for me, I can't isolate how was Derek in run game versus Ucambre Williams. I can't. I haven't done that. I haven't done that research, so I'm not going to pretend that I have. So what in the end, my all-star and who would have been my most outstanding lineman from the West was in fact Derek. And this is why when I see Winnipeg, I look at them and go, man, they love to throw the ball quickly. Matt Nichols' average pass is fewer than 10 yards downfield, which is less than the league average. Bo sits back in the pocket, waits. His average depth of target is the second highest in the league at 11. Pardon me, this year, the highest in the league at 11.3 yards.
Of target. That is like real quick.
Details.
Sorry to interrupt you, Derek.
Yeah, no.
Details.
But please, if you're listening to this, note how specific of a stat average depth of target is.
Yeah,
like that is a stat nobody would normally look at except for a guy like Derek. Okay,
well,
continue.
I feel like DT is like he's like the money ball guy for football.
For real. That's how I feel.
These are all things I kind of wanted to know because, and this is for this exact reason.
Yeah.
Offenses throw deep and some offenses throw short.
Yes.
Winnipeg and Ottawa and Toronto are relentlessly short passing teams.
Yes.
So left tackle for Toronto isn't asked to do the same things as left tackle in last year Edmonton or Calgary. So when it came time to break the tie, I thought, man, I see a lot of times where Bo is sitting in the pocket, making reads down the field, humming the ball deep, and there is nobody on him for 2.5, 3.5, 4 seconds. And that depth of target, honestly, is what swayed me in such a close race. To me, that means offensive linemen are asked to do more. It wasn't that like Winnipeg and Calgary didn't seem to use extra protection in much different numbers. No. So to me, that's what broke the tie. So if I had to from last season, to me it was Derek 1, it was Stanley 2, it was Sir Vincent Rogers 3, and those are 1, 2, 3 very tight.
Yeah,
Joe Vaughn
absolutely.
4, and then not like Joe Vaughn.
1A, 1B, 1C.
Yeah, Joel 4, and then a bunch of other guys factored in down there. But that's some of what I used to break that particular tie.
So my self-suck earlier wasn't unwarranted.
Not unwarranted.
It wasn't unwarranted.
I'm not saying it wasn't unwarranted, but it is self-suck.
It is though. I think the way you looked at it though, I think that's very like I feel like that's like that should be the standard for at least the reporters who get a vote in all-star ballots and for awards at the end of the year. Is that if you could look at it like that and go, well, you know, if you could dissect offenses and be like, well, these guys like to throw the ball short, these guys like to throw the ball deep, so what's more valuable?
Even if you take like a top 4 or 5 from each position, like because they have the stats, like, and you don't have the time to look at everybody's film, and then you go into depth like Derek does.
Yeah.
So just go into depth after the fact, after you have the 4 top guys, and you need to break it down to 1, then go into depth and look at those in-depth stacks that it takes kind of a creative person like Derek to do. And
but honestly, I like that he said that because that's how we talk in the locker room. Mm-hmm. When we talk about each other, when we talk about other players, we all say the same thing. Like, all right, yeah, that guy may be good, but
situationally,
because I know a lot of guys in the league, they get on me and try to say, well, I'm only good because Calgary system just makes everybody look good. But you got to take into effect the guys, talent level. Like, how many other guys have played tackle in Calgary and not been an all-star, not been MOL or been in running for MOL? Like, it's very few. It's very few guys. Like, if it was that easy, the system was that great, every guy who plays in there would look like an all-star. Exactly. But every guy doesn't. So that's like that. Like Speedy B's tweeted me earlier, told me congratulations for getting another year playing in the system. Like Calgary's offense hides me as a player, and I'm like, is that really how people feel about me? But I think it comes from that year I had in SAS because.
Absolutely does.
That offense was horrible.
Yeah.
And even then, Kevin Glenn, we had 2 quarterbacks playing, still led the league in touchdowns that year.
Crazy.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys a question on this, if I can.
Yeah,
absolutely.
sure.
One other thing I'll take into consider on a smaller level is, say, with a left tackle, how good I think the left guard is as well. To me, how much does that matter?
That's big.
It matters a lot, because like the biggest thing ever between a tackle and a guard, especially a left tackle and a left guard, is that trust factor. Now, you need a guard that knows the entire offense. They need to know absolutely what every position on the O-line is doing, basically as well as the center does. Reason being, if he knows what he's doing, and you, as a tackle, you know when you are going to be getting the left guard's help or not, and you can trust that he's going to be there if it's a play call where he's going to be shifting or where he's going to be setting towards you. You need to trust him that he's going to be able to do that. Now, it's going to take a good guard, and it's going to take a very an intelligent guard. And that trust being there, it's huge. Because, like, if you're not worried about the fact that, oh, damn, I really hope so-and-so at left guard knows he's coming to help me, because it affects your set as a tackle. Yeah. If you know you're getting help, you're going to set wider.
Yeah.
You're going to set way wider on the end. And reason being, it takes away the speed rush. But now the DN knows that he can't go inside because, well, there's a guard right there. The guard has that gap. Now, if you don't have that trust in your guard, you won't have the trust in your own technique to take a wide set, which leaves the option for a speed rush, a swim, anything else. And basically, yeah, that's all I would have to say about it is just the trust factor has to be there. It's huge.
I mean, it goes a long way for the entire line. Like, I feel like an entire unit has to have great communication and great trust in one another to know when we make our calls that we all on the same page. Exactly. I think the biggest benefit that I've had, and I tell this to people all the time, me playing next to Shane Bergman is the reason why I can look the way I look in Calgary, because me and Shane have such a great rapport, and we know how each other thinks, and we know how to play stuff. Like, we talk to each other constantly, whether it's off the field, on the field, like even in games. If we're making a block, me and him is on the sideline like, hey, tell me how you want me to step so I know, like, Tell me where you want me to be. Tell me how you want me to do it. Like, me and him go back and forth. When it comes to run blocking, I tell him, hey, you tell me what you need from me, I'll give it to you. And he does the same thing. Hey, you tell me what you need from me, I'll give it to you. And that's why I feel like, in my personal opinion, me and him might be the best left side in the league, because we have such great camaraderie and we play so well together that I think sometimes it kind of hurts him in terms of all-star voting and stuff, because I think he should have been an all-star in this league for the last 3 years easily, because the dude is a baller. Like, he hasn't given up a sack in 3 years.
Let's ask that guy. What do you think about that?
Oh, I was going to say that playing alongside Bergman, when it comes to, say, my all-star ballot, it's not a ding against Derek, but it's something I think that Neufeld in Winnipeg is not Shane Bergman, and Ottawa ran just 3 guys through left guard this year, right, including an absolute rookie who saw Ted Laurent for the first time, and that went super well, he said sarcastically, right? So when it came down to it, I thought, well, I think, and this is literally I think, because I don't know it to be sure. You guys would know, as you just described, know it way better. I think maybe it's a little harder on Stanley than it is on Derek, because I don't value his inside man as much as I value Derek's inside man. So it turned out to be not enough of a ding to take Derek off the top of my ballot, but that's another factor that I think I don't know it, I can't prove it, but I feel like it's got to be a factor in how each one of you guys as an individual does your job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
it is. Yeah, I think it is.
And that's creative for a reporter, especially a guy that's never played offensive line, like to know, like to think about. Yeah, that's why I say creative.
That's big.
Because
it's a dance, right? Like the whole thing, like trying to isolate which one player is good is kind of the goal of everything we would do with statistics. Yeah. But who knows, right?
You can't really do that on offensive line. It's pretty hard.
Well, you can do offensive line, then separate defensive linemen from each other. Well, how much is the quarterback? How much is the receiver? How much is the offensive line? How much is extra protection? Oh, well, Hamilton, maybe their offensive line looks great, but you're max protecting every 1/3 of the plays on the field.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a real thing. S.J. Green, when he was in Montreal, had some bad numbers, but they had just worse quarterbacks. Well, how much of that is S.J. Green's fault? Well, those are things we would love to isolate, and I mean, coaches can isolate, and then massive statistical groups could isolate those too. Pro Football Focus, for example, that's kind of what we're all striving to get to, so we can go who's good and who's not as good, and why is that the case?
Yeah.
And here's what I wanted to ask you. In your breakdowns of film, and you're watching film and you're breaking down the numbers and stuff,
Right.
What guys like I know we talked about it earlier about guys who maybe have stats that don't a lot of people don't pay attention to, but like what guys do you feel like are good players that kind of benefit from being in certain like systems or certain teams, or guys who you think are like they get credit for being good players, but they're not as great as people may think?
I think the one case that comes to my mind to illustrate that might be Ed Gainey 2017 and Ed Gainey 2018. Right? Ed Gainey in 2017 has 10 interceptions, and you go, wow, that is a monstrous number. And then you go, well, okay, a lot of those were it was a pick interception in zone coverage seems to have a degree of randomness to it.
Yeah.
Deron Carter gets 2 picks for touchdowns because receivers fall down. Okay, there's a degree of randomness to it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So when I saw Gainey in 2018, a lot fewer interceptions, but you go, man, he was really asked to do a lot more last season. After Deron got destroyed back-to-back weekends by Chris Williams and Deontay Spencer, he was set to play against Hamilton. And then Saskatchewan went, that's it, we're matching up. So now Ed Gainey's going to cover Banks. He's going to cover Kamar Jordan. He's going to cover Darrell Walker. Monstrous receivers in matchup that most teams just don't do. And I went, his numbers are going to look worse. And people said, oh, he's having a down year. And I thought, you're nuts. Just because he's getting thrown at a lot, that's because he is defending unbelievable receivers. So from Ed Gainey was absolutely an all-star for me because of that. Like, sure, he's getting targeted more. Guys, you remember guys catching balls over him more, but let's think about who it was. You're not going to stop Darrell Walker 12 times on 12 targets. That's just not going to happen.
And you're not going to keep up with Chris Williams on every route. That's for sure. He's got to be one of the fastest guys in the league.
Yeah. So Gainey to me was a guy that would kind of fit that mold. Everybody knows he's really good, but the disparity in what we thought of his 17 and his 18 season, to me, I thought we could do a good job with some better numbers to describe what was going on.
Right, man.
So on the inverse, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the defensive ends in Saskatchewan were another one. Guys who are constantly. I mean, we know they're monsters, but
they're dropping a lot.
Well, exactly. They're 3-man rushing by far more than any other team in the league.
Yeah,
like number 1 and number 2 in pressures in 3-man rush were Charleston Hughes and Willie Jefferson. And that's, I mean, my math says 3-on-5 would be harder than 4-on-5 or 4-on-6.
Yeah. 3-on-5 is hard.
Yeah, so I'm like,
but it's also easier as well because, like I said before, Jones' philosophy, especially when he's playing good quarterbacks, is to drop 9 and to rush 3 to keep the quarterback contained and that he can't get the ball out of his hands downfield.
Yeah.
So you would think 3 guys rushing against 5 is different because there's going to be double teams all over the place. But again, like I said, if you got an offensive line who doesn't have great communication, doesn't know what I'm saying, not knowing their jobs,
or hasn't worked together,
all a guy has to do is slip through a crack and boom. Yeah. Now you're like, oh, well, this guy's awesome because he's beating 2 guys in a 3-man rush.
Yeah.
When it's designed, there's no way for the quarterback to throw the ball down the field, so he has to hold it.
Exactly.
So it's giving him more time to get there.
So that's what it comes down to too, which is interesting, is when you're in an O-line room and you're breaking down who's responsible for the sacks, there's like 3 or 4 possible people. It's the O-line itself. It's the quarterback because maybe he's held the ball too long, or
a running back.
Or he scrambled when he didn't need to.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the running back for missing a block. It also could be coverage.
Coverage.
Yeah, basically, like you're never expected as an offensive lineman to
the block
give
is 5
plus
seconds.
It's 4 seconds is basically like the maximum of standard of where you're expected to block for. 4 seconds. The ball should always be gone in 4 seconds. Anything longer is kind of like bonus time.
Yeah.
So that's why you give coverage sacks.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, exactly, and that's one of the ones that I do that I find incredibly valuable for finding out who's good and who's not. Is one, I'll give out sacks maybe a little differently than the CFL. If 2 guys get there at the same time, to me, both of them are getting credit. But how did they get there? Did you beat an offensive lineman? Okay, that's a win. Were you allowed to run free? Okay, that's a different kind of sack. Yeah. Did someone else force him out of the pocket and he ran right into you? There's a third kind of sack. That's a cleanup sack.
Yeah.
Was the coverage there forever? Well, that's a 4th kind of sack. And then the CFL will give sacks on what are very clearly running plays by the quarterback. So I have it broken down by 5 different kinds of sacks, and then
that's perfect.
Yeah.
So you get down to it, and you go, okay. Charleston Hughes had 15 sacks, I think, officially, and Micah had 14. Micah, on 12 of his 14 sacks, he beat some offensive lineman cold.
Yeah.
That's an incredible number. Charleston, I'm just looking it up now, is down the list. I'm sorted it by defensive tackles. Charleston had 10 of those kind of sacks. And you're like, to beat somebody, there's so many guys who get free rushes and get a sack, and hey, I had 7 sacks this season. Great, 6 of them, no one tried to get to you.
Yeah,
that's not the same in my mind. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just not the same as beating a guy off the edge.
Right,
exactly.
So to me, that's another way I love to break down and find out who's good and who's not.
And I think it's super important to like look at the different ways you can get to a quarterback, because a lot of guys, they're lucky, they happen to be in the right time to the right place.
Man, I get in debates with like D linemen all the time. Like me and Sean Lemon, for instance, argue all the time because my first couple years in the league, he couldn't beat me for shit. And then when he got that one, and then the playoff game that year in SAS, when he got one, it was like, if you watch the play, I'm literally blocking him for 3 seconds. It's just like he runs an entirely large hoop. Brandon Bridge is scrambling backwards for about 10 to 15 yards. And then you get to him and you're like, oh, I beat you. And I'm like, bro, any regular player or quarterback, that's not happening. Like, you didn't hit me with a move and I fell, or, like, it's rare that guys, like, it is. But again, like I said, D linemen, in their mind, they're stat munchers.
They are stat munchers.
They're stat munchers. As long as they can register a stat, doesn't matter how they got it to them, it counts.
That's such a good point.
Well, and to your point, I just pulled up Lemon's numbers. So 11 sacks this season. 4 of them he beat somebody cold. 4 out of 11. 3 of them he was let to run free. 3 of them he cleaned up somebody else's work, and 1 of them was a coverage sack in my mind. So of 11, 4 were I beat a tackle. So,
oh man, I can't wait to text Lemon and tell him to listen to this. Oh man,
gotta be said,
that dude right there.
I love Sean Lemon. Sean Lemon is incredible help to me.
He's a good dude though. He's a good dude. I know a lot of people get down on him because, again, like, he's like me. He's on Twitter. He's talking junk. He's just stirring up.
He's not scared to share.
It's entertainment. It's entertainment.
Exactly.
Like, it's not. If you know him and you talk to him one-on-one, he's not like that. He's just doing it because he's like
stirring
me.
The pot.
You got to stir the pot to create some excitement to get fans to want to, like I don't think fans understand that sometimes. A lot of the times I'm just stirring the pot because I want you to be excited for your defensive end to play me and you to think he's gonna beat me or give me a bad day or whatever. Like,
then when you do beat him, then it's good on you. Yeah,
like, and I don't even rub it. It's just more so like if I could create an exciting matchup every game,
it's brotherly competition.
I'm trying to bring fans to the game. I'm trying to put money in my pocket.
Exactly.
Can I ask you guys a question about Lemon?
Yeah.
This is one that voters, we're just going to miss because we may not get it. Lemon plays 5 games in Toronto, has 7 quarterback pressures and 1 sack. He goes to BC. Like, his first game there, he has 7 quarterback pressures and a sack in that game alone. And you go, what is happening? Like, he led the league in quarterback pressures in the end, but in Toronto, he did not get at the ball at all. And you think, that's got to be a coaching thing. But I can't prove it. We don't know football like you guys know football. What the hell was Sean Lemon's 2018 season?
I think it was a combination. I mean, Lemon kind of has that MO of starting off slow, and then he gets shipped somewhere else where he knows someone and he's comfortable with the scheme or whatever, and all of a sudden he explodes and has all types of crazy stat numbers. I think his,
and there's a lot of guys like that.
I think it's just kind of similar to what people say about me when I left Calgary and I went to SAS, and just how they thought the level of play may have dropped or deferred. And it's more so probably a scheme thing, probably a coach teaching a certain technique that, like there's some coaches that they have their set way of how they want techniques done or how they want guys to do certain things, and it just doesn't fit what that player is actually good at or accentuate his or the things that he can do very well. Yeah. So I think sometimes he may have had a coach, like I think beginning of 18, he may have had a coach that told him, don't take any inside moves, rush the edge, use an inside arm chop out. And Lemon is more of a more of a, kind of angled rusher, work a edge dip rip type of guy, or occasionally give you a spin inside to kind of like switch his stuff up. So I think it was more of a, when he got to BC, he got a little more loose of a leash for him to do things that he was good at, so that he could create, like, again, some pass rush. I think when they made the trade for him, BC really didn't have much of a pass rush outside of maybe Odell Willis. And
Coleman on the interior, yeah.
Yeah.
Coleman's good.
Coleman is good. I think Coleman's really good. I liked him when he was in Hamilton, because when I was in SAS, I played guard. I played him for a game. The dude's pretty quick. But I think him, again, I think Lemon always he benefits from having another good rusher on the other end of him. I think a lot of people don't realize that, is that most of the times when he's had good years, he's had another guy on the other side of him that was a really good rusher and had really good numbers. I think when he was in Toronto, he had when he got there,
Victor Butler.
He had Butler. Yeah, he had Butler
for a few games. Yeah,
for a few games. Yeah, and in Calgary, he was on the other side of Kadero Law or Charleston Hughes. In BC, he had Odell, and I know Odell's a very decent rusher in this league. I mean, he's never had popping numbers again.
Yeah.
But he's a savvy vet. He's been in the league long enough. He knows how to get it done. And I think again, Lemon benefits, like you said, from being on a line that has a lot of guys that can create stuff to give him a lot more one-on-one matchups.
Yeah. And if that allows you to make the impact plays, like I have him at 48 quarterback pressures. Pressure is, quarterback rating drops 40, 50 points when you're under pressure. Those are impact plays, and you get 6 of those in a game. You've ruined the other team. And that's what Lemon can do. And it was fascinating to not see it be able to happen in Toronto. And I took some crap from people in Toronto when I wrote the piece on what was Toronto doing with Lemon, because he's killing it in BC. They're like, well, you don't get everything. You don't understand the run game, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, super, but let him rush the passer.
He's good at that.
I watched the game. It was 17. It was Toronto and Ottawa. And he just gored Jason Lozon-Seguin with a spin move inside. I'm like, wow. I think
he hit him with that move like 2 or 3 times that game.
Well, the very next play, spin move to the inside, gets the quarterback again. I'm like, let him just, I don't know. And you can tell from just how I'm saying it, I don't understand the breadth and depth of what a D coordinator has to do or a D line coach has to do. Right. But if a guy can get after the quarterback, to me, let him get after the quarterback.
Yeah.
Fill it in around him. But if he can get there, that's so valuable. Let him get there.
Yeah, I think a big thing that I think people don't understand is that in the game of football, it's a very, very ego-driven game.
Very ego-driven. Yes.
Ego-driven game.
Very.
And even for coaches. I think a lot of people don't think coaches have egos, but coaches have egos as well.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes they may want to set an example with a certain player if they think maybe he's getting too much praise or his head's getting too big or he's starting to think he's better than what he is. They'll find ways to kind of damper that down and bring it down in their own way. Yeah. So I think, again,
that's just where like human bias comes into play too.
It comes into play a lot.
They might not even know the coaches themselves might not know they're doing it.
Yeah, it just comes natural. Yeah. And I think again, there's a lot of guys in this league who benefit from having great relationships with their coaches.
Yes.
And I think a guy, my example, like Speedy B, when June Jones took over in Hamilton.
Oh.
It was a different type of player than before you saw when Ken Austin was running it. So it was like, well, in your mind, if you're a real football guy, you go, well, if this guy's had this ability the whole time, why haven't you been taking advantage of it?
Yeah. And
it took till Hamilton hiring a coach who looked at Speedy B and go, you know what, this dude has tools, I need to utilize them, and the dude explodes. He probably would have led the league in receiving this year if he didn't get hurt.
Oh, Hamilton, to me, Hamilton goes to the Grey Cup if Banks doesn't get hurt.
I think so. I think so as well. To me, I think that East Final was a different game with him playing.
100%. It's not going to be that East Final. That East Final is one of my prouder statistical moments to go, hey, Trevor Harris threw 6 touchdown passes. 85% of those yards came after the catch. So it was great for 6 touchdowns. And I hate to be, the party pooper. But that's a lot of short passes taken a long distance that maybe quarterbacks don't necessarily deserve all of the glory for, let's say.
Here's my question to you about quarterbacks.
Hit me.
I did a ranking earlier, and I ranked my version of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. And of course, I'm a player. I don't have the details and statistics. I'm going off of basically naked eye, me knowing the game of football, watching the game of football, basing off of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I ranked Mike Riley ahead of Bo overall, and it had nothing to do with stats. But the only reason why I said in the show previous before I ranked Mike ahead of Bo is just that I feel like Mike has a certain toughness meter that's like tested every game that you don't see most quarterbacks tested as. And if I'm wrong, I mean I'm going for naked eye, but who is, if you have that stat available, who was the like most pressured quarterback in the CFL
this past season? Let me pull it up. If Tyler can plug his ears for a moment, it may very well have been literally everybody in Montreal.
It's okay.
He knows that.
I wasn't playing.
Yeah. I'm going to sort it for more than 100 attempts and tell you Antonio Pipkin, number 1, Johnny Manziel, number 2. They were pressured at just an alarming rate of 38%.
Yep.
Just an alarming rate. And Mike Riley was number 3 at 28%, which is
that's right there.
Well, and yeah.
Well, 10%.
Bo deserves a lot of credit.
He does deserve credit too, because there are times when people may get to Bo, and he's very elusive that people don't realize, don't give him credit for.
Yeah.
Bo knows how to escape pressure and at least give himself enough time where he could get the ball out of his hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bo is sacked on 19% of the time that Bo's pressured, he's sacked, which is a very low number. I think it's 5th best in the league. You have guys like Kalaros and Strevler, obviously, who doesn't have nearly as many reps, and Masoli, who can get away from everybody.
Yeah.
Bo deserves a lot of credit for playing that 2017 season when he was clearly not right.
Shoulder.
Oh, yeah, he deserves. But Mike Riley is a next level player that would have fit in football 50 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I met him at the 17 Grey Cup. It was the first time I'd ever met him, and he recognized me from my cartoon face. And I said, man, I can't believe someone takes a cannonball to the ribs every 5 plays, and you just get right back up, and you're like, okay, that was cool. I'm in the middle of traffic. This is fine. Cars are whizzing by me. I'm cool. He does not phased by anything, and he gets hit by a boulder. He's like, yeah, okay, I'm back. Have I got my lungs? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
exactly.
And he's ready to ball again. And they ask him to throw the ball 600 times a season, and he keeps doing it. So if you want to say Riley is 1 and Bo is 2, I totally get it, because it's 1. They're so far ahead of everybody else, but no end of love for what Riley does. And that must play, I mean, Tyler, that must play very well in the locker room, a quarterback who will take that kind of beating.
Absolutely. And that is one major thing is when you have a quarterback that's like, he's going to get up, he's going to play just as hard for you every single play, regardless of how he got hit. That's big. And also it's when a guy can do that, it also speaks to, even if a quarterback gets up after plays like, okay, it's all good. Well, mentally, he's going to get pissed off. He might start taking it out on his O-lineman, which Mike Riley, I'm sure, does to some degree when that happens. But, there's a point where it's like, okay, man, now you're just bitching.
Yeah.
Like now you're just bitching, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, get up. Like, yeah, okay, you got taken down, but you were dragged down by the back of your jersey. You went onto your knees. The play was over. You're fine, dude. Get up. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Because, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for letting up that sack. But at the same time, next play.
Yeah.
And Mike can do that.
But Mike, like, that's what I'm saying. I said, I've only been in this league a short time, but it's like I've watched games where I see Mike just get bludgeoned, like to the point where you're like, is he going to get up from that one?
Yeah.
And the dude just gets right up and is like, you could tell, like, he's like, God damn, that hurt, but it doesn't slow him down. And again, I point out too. You pointed out again, he had the most rushing touchdowns as a quarterback. Yeah. And I'm like, Mike is the rare quarterback in the CFL where he does not leave the field.
Yeah.
Most teams, their starter leaves the field for short yardage or leaves the field for goal line.
Yeah.
Mike doesn't. Mike just, all right, quarterback sneak, boom, let's go.
Yep.
All right, first down.
Was it 14 touchdowns?
13.
13,
and they were all sneaks, which is another way we got to break those down too. But Derek, you mentioned you've been in the league a short time. Think of there are quarterbacks you've seen the league get ruined by pressure. Drew Willie in Winnipeg, ruined by pressure. I don't know what his future is in the CFL anymore. But there's a guy with a lot of football skills, but just can't. When I watch him, I go, he can't hang in the pocket anymore. And then Zach Collaros in the first half of that, was it the 17th season when he came back from the knee injury?
Yeah.
He starts the next season. They start 0-8. There's a guy, his left and right tackle were just getting turnstiled repeatedly. And he thought he was going to die, it looked like. And you're like, I don't know if he's recovered from that. I can't tell you. That's beyond me. But that he was very clearly affected in a way that Riley is not. And that makes Riley all the much more remarkable.
Yeah, man. That was my whole reasoning for it. I know a lot of people got killed me for it because they're like, "Oh, Bo just won you a Grey Cup. Why would you say he's not the best?" I'm like, I think Bo's a phenomenal quarterback, phenomenal dude.
Yeah,
I love him to death. I literally go out there, and part of the reason why I play hard is because I love protecting for Bo because I know he can make the plays.
Exactly.
And it's very good for you especially as an offensive lineman. When you got faith in your running back and your quarterback that you know if I do my job, they're gonna make some shit shake.
Yeah.
So again, I love Bo. I think in terms of arm, I think he has the best arm in the league. Yeah. For short, intermediate, long throws. I think he's like one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league, if not the most accurate quarterback in the league. And I think.
Well, we can ask our stat guy about the most accurate.
Oh, I probably have some numbers.
I know you got the percentages.
Continue, Derek, but I have some numbers on that for you.
But at least in my personal opinion, I think honestly, as a player, Bo is like in terms of mentality. Yeah. Like to me, Bo has that Michael Jordan mentality where like
the make it happen mentality.
He steps on the field. I'm the best guy on the field. No one's better than me. I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna win the game. Type of thing. Yep. Like I think in 16, we played BC. We were down, I think 3, maybe almost 4 scores, and come back and win the game in double overtime. I think we're only like 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. We're down 3-4 scores, and we still come back and win that game. That's the type of games I think about when I think of Bo. And then there's not many quarterbacks in this league that can do that.
No, not at all.
Yeah. But
I mean, Mike Brown's got that unshakable.
I digress, DT. I made the point about Bo being an accurate quarterback. Can you break it down for us? Who is the most accurate quarterbacks in the CFL?
The most accurate, now we're talking about raw accuracy, just pass A to B, not considering the depth of target, anything like that. Mike Riley, number 1 this past season. Trevor Harris, number 2, and Bo Levi Mitchell, number 3. Now, if you then adjust it for how deep the pass was and where it was left to right on the field, Riley again, number 1. Bo becomes number 2, just a fraction behind Mike, and then Jeremiah Masoli at number 3.
Interesting.
Masoli had an incredible season. What they did with him. So Bo and Mike are 1 and 2 in whatever order, you guys.
Yeah. Well, I did it. I mean, technically it could be 1A, 1B. I did it 1, 2, just for sake of purposes, having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. So in any argument, 3, 4, and 5 though. This is what
3,
I want to know. 4,
and 5 to me was I think number 3 was. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was Masoli.
I was gonna say.
I think number 4 was Harris, and number 5 was Matt Nichols.
Okay, Tyler.
And
that was Derek. I pretty much just had a top 3, and my top 3 was Riley, Levi, and or Bo, Levi, Mitchell, and Masoli. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're kind of on the same page. I thought Zach. I'd predicted Zach would have a great season. It didn't turn out for him. Masoli was tremendous. Like from how he evolved in 2018, I think was a phenomenal testament to him and to June Jones. Like he was an inaccurate spray quarterback, and they turned him into this, 7-step, the equivalent of 7-step drop is throw it deep in max protection and make it happen.
And just air
phenomenal.
it out.
Phenomenal. Trevor Harris for Ricky Ray, if he'd played more this season, would have been off the charts.
Ricky Ray was always a dog. I like Ricky Ray, even though I felt always. I think when in 17 when we in the East Final in that last drive, I was like, we're losing the game. We just gave Ricky Ray a chance to win the game. It's over.
Well, and Wilder gets credit for that great reception because it's just another thing that Ricky Ray has done, right? It's it's 1 of 100 to Ricky Ray, but it's 1 of 1
It
to
was a
James
great
Wilder.
ball. It was a great ball thrown by Ricky Ray.
Yeah.
And to be clear, Iguavin could have made a play on it. He just read it too late.
Oh, no.
He could have. Listen, I think I know exactly what play it was. It was the same wheel route that Toronto always runs with the running back. They do a wheel route and they put the running back up the sideline.
Yeah.
They ran the play, I think, a couple plays before that, or a couple series before that, and they stopped it. But again, they had so much faith in the play being successful, it threw it at him again, and at the most critical time in the game, and it hit. And that one play, if Iguavin makes that play, we played Calgary in the Grey Cup in 2017.
Yeah.
One play.
I can see
that one play.
I can see it.
Yeah. And it was just like, sometimes. But in my mind, I'm like the defense was playing great that game.
Yeah.
But it's the simple fact that that's like giving a last drive to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
You know, every time you watch the Patriots, if you give Tom Brady a chance to win the game, you're like,
might as well turn it up, might as well turn the game off.
I'm like,
you know who's gonna win that.
Damn it.
Hey, Drew. So we had say who were the guys that you think the stats help out. But based on like 2018 stats, who are as a guy or two, kind of as like a last topic, who's a guy or two that you think, based on your stats, doesn't get enough love, that is more responsible for their team's success than maybe somebody that has like 12 sacks?
I don't want to rehash, but people really thought Sir Vincent Rogers was terrible this past season, and I didn't know what they were talking about. Like, he's gotten old, he's fallen off. I'm like,
no,
he's still younger than I am, so that's great for a professional athlete. And I mean, he just if they don't beat you off the left side, how can you tell me he's getting old? I didn't understand that one at all. Why people were not so much in love with him. I feel like if things went a little better at quarterback for Toronto, a guy like Armonte Edwards would get more love because he really
a dog.
Like,
I love Armonte. He's a dog.
I remember when Toronto traded for him, they sent a remaindered piece to Saskatchewan. I thought, oh, this guy's going to bust out, and it just quarterback-wise hasn't worked out. So if Franklin can hook up something with that, so now that you're Darrell Walker, S.J. Green, and then Armonte Edwards to the field, that guy's just good. And 4 touchdowns does not show you what that cat can do. He is tremendous at football. Yeah, I wish I could say Ernest Jackson, but it's been a rough time for him in Montreal.
Yeah, Montreal.
Yeah. I mean, we started 6 different quarterbacks this year.
Yes.
Yeah, but the thing is that you didn't know about EJ is the before he came to Montreal.
Yeah.
He was the East MOP in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He led the league in receiving touchdowns one year.
Yeah, I mean, I knew he was a dog. I just didn't
like in Ottawa, he was a savage. Now, again. Now you start to think, was it a product of the offensive system? I think Jason Moss was the OC that year.
I wrote details on that because that was super fascinating in his first year in Montreal. I assume in BC it was the same, but in Ottawa he was the boundary slot back. That's where the action is. Ottawa's transition. So he moves to Montreal. All of a sudden he's the field wide receiver. Well, that's where the football goes to die. And I thought, why are they doing this to him? This is Ernest Bleepin' Jack. He caught the game-winning touchdown in the Grey Cup. What's happening here? And after I wrote that piece, some folks reached out to me and went, yeah, we're wondering too why Ernest is playing out to the field. So I wish better things for him because that's a guy. I mean, he's a hell of a football player.
He's a hell of a football player.
Tremendous. So
great guy too.
A guy we talked about before, I feel like doesn't get a lot of love. BJ Cunningham.
Yeah.
I feel like BJ Cunningham is a really good football player.
Great. And he was hurt all year this year, basically. But so like that didn't help him in the conversations. It's like who's like good wide receivers.
I feel like if BJ ever got a really good quarterback, his stats would be off the charts. Absolutely. Like he'll be up there with the top guys.
We may be about to see that, right? Because I like Pipkin a lot. I don't know who you guys are going to start, Tyler, but I like Antonio Pipkin a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to take this camp coming up to see who's going to emerge as the starter. You know, we basically re-signed all of our quarterbacks minus Drew Willie that we had on the roster, which was like 20, and we re-signed all 20 of our quarterbacks. And
another guy we're talking about too, Vernon Adams. I think Vernon Adams is
really good too. That's what I'm saying. Like it's so, and Schultz can get it done too in situations. That's what I'm saying. So like this camp that we're gonna have in Montreal coming up is gonna be so interesting at the quarterback position, because honestly, all of those guys can take over. But I think to have success in Montreal, we need a guy that's going to take over for in such a fashion during that camp that the coaches are saying at the end of camp, barring injury, this is our starter all year. We need that.
But Montreal's a tough situation because you guys are in like a really, we need to win like right now type of situation.
Absolutely, especially this year.
I think because of that mentality, was so quick to make really hash decisions.
Yep.
Because you guys were just fighting to build a fan base, build excitement in the city, and you guys just needed to just get some wins to get people like, okay, all right, maybe this team is turning the corner.
Exactly. And so I think that's what's going to be interesting about this year too, is you're saying, it needs to be a win situation, and every season needs to be that. But last season people are kind of given, all right, well, it's Kavis Reed's first year, he's trying to build a different team, so they're taking that rebuilding mentality, but you can't call every losing season a building year. But as far as the first GM season goes, you can kind of get away with that as an excuse fine. But and so that's why I feel like we put a lot of pieces in place throughout the season that like now we're way better off now than we were when I got there week 6, right? Or like even halfway between week 6 and the end of season, week 8 or week 24, whatever it was. Right. And so that's what's going to come down to though. Is that quarterback battle, and somebody's has to because all these guys can make it happen, but somebody's got to separate themselves in such a way that they are destined to be the start of the rest of the season.
They just need to instill confidence in them. You to let them know, like, barring mistakes or success, you're the guy. We're behind you. We're going to help. You know what I'm saying? That goes a long way for any player. If a coaching staff shows you that they have the utmost faith in you getting it done, it always helps for a guy to feel more relaxed and go make plays.
Especially at the quarterback position, if you feel like your ass is on the line, then you're going to go out there without the confidence that
you can't play with a tight a-hole, man. You never perform well.
Can't
never perform well.
And if you don't think you're good enough to be the starter, then it's you might not.
Yeah. Derek, last question for you. I appreciate you coming on, man. I know we've been holding you up for a little bit, but my last question for you is: after the big, free agency bombs and things are starting to settle down and things are getting a little quiet before we get to those later waves of free agent signings, what teams do you think did enough in free agency to kind of put themselves in that playoff Grey Cup contender conversation currently right now?
Okay, so to me, the East is entirely about Hamilton. Like Hamilton, just sure they lost two-thirds of their starting linebacking core, but they filled those in They filled those in pretty well. If that offense comes back healthy, Saunders is healthy, and Banks is healthy, and Tasker is healthy. Alex Green, their offensive line. I just saw they signed Mike Filer back. Masoli played super well. That defensive line, you add Jagarrett Davis to that defensive line, a guy who had more. I mean, there were players that had more quarterback pressures than Hamilton's defensive ends did last year. So you add a guy like Davis, who is a killer off the end. Hamilton, to me, is the class of the East because Ottawa has taken many, many steps back. They have a plan, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. But they have a plan in there somewhere. BC transformed the East by getting Mike Riley. They go from the
West, I got you.
Yeah, pardon me, in the West. They go from the worst quarterback situation in the West to me to the best one.
Yeah.
Well, 1A, like we've been saying.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. They kept Brian Burnham. That's terrific. I don't know what they're going to do.
Carter.
Duron Carter. I won't say too much about Duron Carter. His best season in the CFL was 10th in receiving. He's got all the potential in the world. He's got the most skill of any receiver.
He is.
Show me.
I know DC well, and I know he's a super talented player. I think sometimes it's kind of hard that I think he knows sometimes that he's so talented that it kind of just it gets kind of lost in the shuffle of things sometimes and other things that he does.
He gets in his own way kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing with DC is he gets in his way a lot.
How many guys do you know like that? And
because the guy is, I'm talking about like he's freakishly talented.
Yeah, he's NFL talented. He's NFL skilled.
Yeah, he's definitely an NFL wide receiver. Like he has no business being in the CFL, but he's here because he just gets in his own way too much sometimes. I think. Well, and I think if he ever just put just a little bit more focus into things, it would dramatically change everything for him.
Yeah.
But he's still a hell of a player.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a hell of a player. And I think him having playing with Mike Riley, I think is going to do wonders for him this year. I think he's going to have a big year this year, having a quarterback like that who's going to have faith in him and is going to have fun playing with him and put the ball up where he knows he can make plays. That's really DC's MO. If you just put the ball anywhere where he can make a play on it, he'll make a play on it. Yeah. So I think having him and Burnham in that receiving core is going to be big for them.
I like Shaq Johnson there as well.
Shaq Johnson's pretty good. No, good. I'm sorry, Derek.
Oh, I was going to say, Figueroa's got left tackle on lock. Right tackle was Olafioye last year. I'm not sure if they're going to, try to bring him back. And Suk Chung. I was going to say they brought in a guard.
Oh yeah, they brought in Suk Chung.
Yeah, they needed some help at one of their.
Honestly, my personal opinion, I don't think Suk Chung is as good as people say he is. At least from watching.
Testify.
I'm with you. If you really watch Suk Chung play, I think a lot of players on that Winnipeg line the last couple of years got lost in the fact that everybody was just rivaling at the fact that because they had Andrew Harris and he was always busting good runs and
absolutely.
They probably rush the ball the most of any team in the CFL. They hand the ball up at least 15 to 20 times. Most teams in the CFL don't do that. So I think what kind of got lost. And I think their offensive scheme in terms of run blocking was pretty good.
Yeah.
And it was easy for them to it was kind of just put bodies on bodies and let the running back do the rest type of thing. And I think, especially in pass pro, I was never really a big fan of Suk Chung because if you really watched him, the dude was getting beat a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And Derek probably has the stats. I don't know, but me just being a football player and watching, he's Canadian and he gets a lot of hype for it. And, good interior Canadian offensive linemen are the really good ones are hard to come by.
Yeah, yeah.
But
because they're mostly all Canadian, but the good ones are
the good ones, the ones that are really good. Because you got to remember, a lot of teams now are going to American D tackles. So if you have a Canadian guard, they got to block. You know what I'm saying? Especially in the West,
they got to block Micah Johnson.
You got to block Micah Johnson. You got to block. Armando Sewell.
Yeah, you got who are we just?
Ted Laurent, you know what I'm saying?
We were just talking about.
Now you got Coleman now in BC.
Yep, Coleman.
The West pretty much has the top three of the top 4 D tackles. So if you're being a guard in the West, you got the shit cut out for you.
You gotta be ready.
And if the scheme doesn't fit to kind of hide it, I think I said, DT said it earlier. Winnipeg threw a lot of short passes, so it's easy to hide deficiencies when the ball's coming out quick.
When the ball's within 2 seconds.
But now you got Mike Riley back there, who's a guy who likes to throw the ball deep, likes to hold it.
Later, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
It's gonna be interesting.
Is Suk Chung gonna have the same year? He's the same year, same type of success he's been having in Winnipeg. I don't know. We'll see.
And then if he doesn't, it's gonna be like your peeps at Saskatchewan. Oh well, Suk Chung came here and sucked.
It's gonna be exactly what happened to me in Sash.
Yeah.
I was talking about it off camera. Please, Derek, please set the record straight for me. Please let people know that I did not play that bad in Sash that year.
I had you with, I believe it was 11 quarterback pressures that year. So some of that you'd slid inside at the time. But let me pull that up.
But again, some of it was the scheme.
11 pressures and 18 starts.
And 18 starts is not bad.
Yeah. I had you at 15 starts. Were you hurt a little bit in 17?
Yeah. Well, no.
I may have counted.
I wasn't hurt. I got benched.
Benched. Okay.
But that's another story for another day.
I threw this on Twitter just talking about Chung. Chung gets a monstrous deal with BC, and a guy like Ryan Bombin bounced around to 3 teams last year. I thought, is Suk Chung really twice as good as Ryan Bombin?
No. I don't think Ryan Bombin is that good.
No.
No?
No.
I'm on Team Bombin. Okay, I'm curious to hear from guys who know better.
It's more just with a guy like Bombin, it's you got to take into account coachability sometimes. Bauman is really kind of a guy. I think he's a decent player for sure, especially when he comes down.
He's a decent player.
When it comes down to Canadian interior offensive linemen, he's in the top echelon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But at the same time, though, when you got a guy that's he's also not going to be told what to do. Yeah. That's an issue sometimes.
You know who I think is really good? and I think he gets hidden because they do a lot of match protecting. Revenberg from Hamilton.
Yeah.
I think he's really good.
Okay.
Like watching him on film, I think he's gonna be a dog.
Yeah.
Like he has really good hands, really good feet. And I just think he's a savage because the dude plays with no gloves. He plays bare hands. You have to be a beast.
I've never understood that personally.
You have to be a savage to play barehanded.
You have to be a barbarian, like a legit barbarian. IQ and all.
But like it's times where I watched him on film, and I'm talking about like his sets. Some of his sets were like pristine. I'm talking about like it make you go, wow, that was really good.
That looked pretty.
And I think he's only in his second, maybe third year.
Yeah.
I think it is. Yes, I think it's second year. Yes.
I think it's second year. I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah, among left guards, tied with Bergman for the fewest quarterback pressures last season.
Yeah, I think Revenberg is a pretty good player. But again, Bauman is serviceable, in my opinion.
Okay. Like, I don't think he should be somewhere for sure.
Yeah, of course. But I think again in the East, I think offensive linemen in the East are like. I feel like guys who end up getting all-stars, it's a little easier because it's not. I feel like the competition level is it's not there.
And I can't really.
The only good D tackle.
I haven't been around long enough to defend.
But the only good D tackle to me, in my opinion, in the East is Ted Laurent. Like Ted Laurent is probably the one.
Yeah, he's a beast.
And most teams are going to double team him. So
yeah, of course. So he's going to
his numbers are not going to be the same.
No love for Cleon Lang out of East defensive tackles.
No, Cleon. I think Cleon's the best pass rushing D tackle. Okay. The second best pass rushing D tackle next to Micah. I think Micah's one. Yeah. I think Cleon is two.
Okay. Yeah, I just had to save some love for Cleon Lang.
Oh yeah, it slipped my mind. I know.
No, totally.
I know Cleon. He's a cool dude. I love Cleon. I think Cleon is a good player. I think sometimes he gets a little lost in it because Toronto's D line last year was terrible, and I think he kind of like put a little asterisk next to him because it was hard to take notice of him. Yeah. Because Toronto was just bad.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But in terms of like skill level, I think Cleon's probably the second or third best D tackle in the league. He's challenging for best D tackle in the East for sure with Ted.
Well, and if Butler, there's talk about Butler may be back. If it's Butler and Lemon off the edge and Lang +1 in the middle, that starts to look a lot better.
And that was a good D line in 17.
Yep.
That was a really good D-line in 17. But Derek, man.
We appreciate the insight from outside the locker room today.
But you know what? It's almost like again, I said I think the biggest thing with him talking to guys and getting some love, I think it's a very easy understanding. And I told you that again. That's why I love Derek so much. And I'm so glad and happy that you did this for us, man. I greatly appreciate you coming on with us today. You are a gem, my brother. Keep doing what you do.
Thank you. I
if you ever need any more advice, you always know my phone's on. Hit me up, holler at me.
Yes.
But I tell you all the time, man. You're doing a hell of a job already.
Absolutely.
Just keep going, man.
You're looking at the game from a statistical standpoint the correct way.
You're one of the few reporters. Like I said, you're one of the few reporters out there that gets my respect. I respect your opinions, and even if so, like you got concrete reasons why you say certain things and why you do certain things, and I kudos to you, my brother, for that.
Thank you, I appreciate it, guys. I'm happy to do it.
Again, that was Derek Taylor. We appreciate him coming on. Great conversation today. If you listen to the episode, the guy broke down a lot of players, a lot of teams.
Yep.
And it was very informational. Derek, again, we appreciate you coming on, brother.
And again, I just like the way that he looks at stats in such a different way than even I as a player do. Like, he was bringing up things during that conversation. The main one being, like, when he breaks down, like, a tackle, okay, well, between you and the guy...
Stanley and Servey.
And Stanley, yep. Between you and Stanley, how he broke it up saying, well...
Yeah, who was his vote for All-Star?
Derek had a block longer. Yeah. That's crazy. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. Speaking of that Caffeine and Kilos PR Blend Coffee giveaway, the way you win it, go to the YouTube channel, you subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow on SoundCloud, and follow on Instagram. Once you've done those 3 things...
If you do all these 3 things, you will be entered into a contest to win a nice bag of PR Blend from Caffeine and Kilos, our great supporters here at Insights from the Locker Room. Again, you must follow us on all social platforms, send in some proof, and we'll get you some coffee. But again, thank you for tuning in today. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And again, if you have any questions, any thoughts, please reach out to us at previously mentioned Instagram and Twitters. Follow us. And if there's any more content that you need, let us know. We're always open to suggestions. We're always open to opinions. And if you want to talk a little trash with me and Tyler, you're always welcome to hit us up as well.
We'll always respond to that.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.